Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Okay, so it's official. Shador Sanders will be getting the start this week in Las Vegas versus the Raiders. This will be obviously his first start of his NFL career. It comes against a team that was one of those teams that was heavily rumored to be interested in drafting Shador Sanders up until the point to where they traded for Geno Smith, right? There were all these rumors and, they were sending cleats to Shador and all this weird shit going on during the end of the college football season. And obviously the Raiders did not end up taking Shador in the draft. So a bit of a revenge opportunity for Shador Sanders. The Raiders are coming off of a pretty bad loss to the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. The Raiders aren't at a great place. They have not been playing great football offensively, defensively. They've been about as bad as you can be as a football team. So this should be a pretty even matchup with the Cleveland Browns, who have also, I think defensively, they've been pretty solid, but offensively have been about as bad as you could be, regardless of what's going on at the position. Now, just because this game on paper seems winnable, there are some things to keep in mind, because if Shador does win this game, he will make history. So I wouldn't just consider it a layup because of these factors. One, Shador, he has a chance to be the first Browns rookie quarterback to win his first start in his rookie year this Sunday, since the Browns have come back since 1999. So in that since 99 history, no rookie quarterback in their first year has won their first start. The closest that the Browns have come is Baker Mayfield's win in relief to Tyrod Taylor on Thursday Night Football. A lot of people confuse that with a win, but he was not the starting quarterback going in. He doesn't technically get credited for a win. If Shador wins this game, and especially if he starts and finishes the game and they win, this will be the first time that has happened in Browns expansion history. Also, he would become the first Browns quarterback to win a road game on the West Coast since 2012. That's crazy to think about. The Browns have not won a West Coast road game since 2012. It was Brandon Weeden, the last quarterback who did it. That's just a wild one, right? Because the Browns have had a couple of 11-win seasons in between there, and it's hard to imagine none of those wins came on the West Coast, but they didn't. The Browns have not had a West Coast win since 2012. This game may look easy on paper, but if the Browns win it, if Shador wins it, it will require some history to be made. So we're going to talk more about what the expectations that are fair for Shador to go into this week. What are the hopes that you see out of him? Where does he need to specifically improve? We're going to get into all of that. But before I do, got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. Okay, so if we're using last week as sort of a baseline on what needs to improve with Shador, right? And again, I wouldn't use 2 quarters to judge a guy entirely, but you gotta use what you have in the NFL in regular season play to establish somewhat of a baseline if you want to be able to talk about what he can improve and what would look like tangible progress in his first start with reps. A lot of talk has gone into that, by the way, right? The whole reps thing. We've talked a ton about the first team reps. Was it weird that he didn't get them? Was it not? There's pretty conclusive evidence from plenty of backup quarterbacks that'll tell you it's not strange that Shador didn't get those first team reps before this game. But now we're past the point of even having to have that conversation, right? Shador's going to get the first team reps this week. Dillon Gabriel's out with a concussion. They've already named him the starter. He's going to be prepped to be the starter. They're going to give him everything he needs to be the starter this week. So that question shouldn't matter. But there's always been a flip side to the conversation of him getting first team reps versus not getting those first team reps, him being ultra ready to go into the game versus not being super ultra ready to go into the game. And that is the other side of the conversation, which is the defense gets to game plan against Shador. Now, it seemed like Zach Orr had a pretty strong idea of what he wanted to do to Shador the second he walked in there, right? I don't know if this is his basic, hey, they got a rookie in that hasn't played, let me speed him up, or if this is something that he got off tape study because he thought that Shador might play. But Zach Orr basically blitzed the shit out of Shador Sanders. If you look at the blitz numbers, Dillon Gabriel in the first half of this game only got blitzed on one drop back. And I think even that drop back, they called a penalty or something like that. And then it wasn't actually like a drop back. Basically, they didn't blitz Dillon Gabriel in the first half. It wasn't a part of their game plan for him. When Shador stepped in, the Ravens blitzed almost every play. They did some kind of sim pressure look almost every play. Nine blitzes in the second half on his dropbacks. That was 42% of Shador's dropbacks. So what that tells me is teams are going to look at that. Teams are going to look at his college tape. Teams are going to go back to his notes as a prospect. And a team like the Raiders, they're going to have a lot of notes about Shador because they did look at him as a prospect. And they're going to say to themselves, okay, this is what we want to do against him. This is how we think we can make him take away his strengths of the game. I think their game plan is going to be to blitz the ever-living shit out of Shador Sanders. So if that's the case, then that means that Shador has to get better at some things that I thought he struggled with in his first start. If you saw my film breakdown of this, I thought I did a solid job of highlighting it. But my biggest concern with Shador, like the sack stuff, okay, that's just going to be a part of his game, right? I'm not expecting that to change. Do I want him to take less egregious sacks? I mean, when I say that, I mean he shouldn't be 30, 40 yards deep whenever he takes a sack and sacrificing all that field position. That should only happen once or twice a season, not like 3 times in a game. So yeah, that stuff has to get better there. But in general, Shador, the way he likes to play, his pressure to sack numbers are never going to be low, right? You might be able to get him to a point to where he's under 20, but he's always going to be a high pressure to sack rate guy because that's just how he plays football. At Jackson State, when he had a better offensive line than most of the SWAC in the MEAC, and I was watching those games. Most people did not watch those games. I was actually watching this thing from the start. I was at the Celebration Bowl his freshman year at Jackson State when they played South Carolina State. So like, I've been watching this guy for a while. So Shador, he's always had issues getting rid of the ball, not taking sacks. This was at Jackson State when he had a good offensive line relative to his peers. At Colorado, when he had a bad offensive line relative to his peers, he had the same issues. And if you look at other quarterbacks who have had these issues, right, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, the pressure to sack numbers don't really change throughout their career because the pressure to sack numbers are just kind of a reflection of one of the parts of that player's play style. Shador's going to hold the ball. He's going to take a couple of extra sacks that maybe a Joe Flacco wouldn't, right? Because Joe Flacco gets rid of the ball quick. So that's just part of Shador's game. I'm not expecting that to drastically change overnight. A week is not enough time to make a change here. That's a change that will take years. And even if you give it years, it's not guaranteed that it's going to be able to happen because, again, it's just part of his game. He's always going to have high pressure to sack rate numbers, even if he has a good offensive line, a bad offensive line. It's just part of how he plays it. And this is why a lot of people make the argument that sacks are a quarterback stat. So that part of his game, I'm not really going to worry about that changing. If you're Shador, just limit the damage that you take when you take those sacks, right? If you take 5 sacks, please let the yardage be under 30 yards, right? Instead of it being 2 sacks for 40, like it has been in the past. So that's really the conversation about the sack stuff. That's not my main concern with what I saw on tape with Shador. What my main concern with what I saw with Shador was post-snap processing and pre-snap processing. Like, there were a couple of instances where the defense gave him a clear answer, and for whatever reason, he's not even close to finding that answer. It's one thing, like when Dillon Gabriel has this pop up, most of the time it's because he's like tunnel vision on one answer or because he's scared to throw the ball downfield, which is his own problem, right? Shador was a little bit different, and I'm not saying it's any better or worse, but it's a little bit different where there were clear answers, but he's opting to go for the more difficult throw, the more risky throw when he really doesn't have to. There were 2 plays I highlighted that I thought really demonstrated this. The interception to Jerry Jeudy, where he just did not see the corner sitting in that part of the zone for whatever reason. I don't know how, and threw it right to him because he was just forced to make a quick decision. And then the drop touchdown to Gage Larvinen that really should have never even went to Gage Larvinen. It should have went to Jeudy because they did a DB blitz, a slot blitz off Judy's man that opened up Jeudy wide open. He should have hit him. That's my concern, is like, hey, if they speed you up and make you find answers quickly, can you find those answers quickly? Because Baltimore seemed fairly certain that that was not something he would be able to do if they forced him to do it. And when they did force him to do it, he was not successful. Now, maybe getting a week of practice, maybe getting a week of prep to prepare for this helps out Shador, but that's going to be a big question. If Shador wants to have success in this game, he's going to have to be better in that area of diagnosing the blitz and then finding an answer and getting the ball out quickly. If he holds on to the ball, he rolls around there, Max Crosby's going to get him. He's probably going to have a couple of strip sack fumbles, and you're probably going to throw an interception too, right? So if you're not getting rid of that ball quickly against the Raiders, they're never going to get out of blitzing. And if they never get out of blitzing, you're never going to get comfortable. So if you're Shador and you want to get to the fun stuff in the offense, which he does want to get to, right? The downfield throws, all of that, you have to be good at the unfun stuff, which is they're going to blitz you and you just got to take a quick, easy answer, right? A short throw, a quick out. It's not going to be sexy. You're not going to put it on the highlight reel, but you got to be willing to take the boring answer early so you can get to the funner stuff at the end of the game, because that's what Shador brings to the table that Dillon Gabriel does not. Shador has an ability to find passing lanes out of structure and to be able to throw balls that are a little bit more accurate than Dillon Gabriel. The reason Dillon Gabriel's been starting over Shador is because Dillon Gabriel's ability to run the base offense is just higher than Shador's is right now. And in order for what Shador does to matter, you have to be able to run the base offense a little better than Shador has demonstrated that he can run it in the preseason or in the regular season. So if you're Shador, it's cool if you can make one of those nice throws that everybody's going to put on social media. But if you want to climb up the depth chart and take the job from Dillon Gabriel, what I think the Browns are going to want to be evaluating from him is his ability to operate the offense to a sustainable point, right? Because even with Dylan Gabriel, who's better than him at it, I wouldn't argue that Dylan's gotten to the point to where he's operating the offense to an acceptable place, right? So there's definitely a brass ring to be grabbed if you're Shador Sanders, because it's not like Dylan has snatched up this job and ran away with it. But you got to attack it. And the way you can attack it is by making sure that you're operating the base parts of this offense well. And the Raiders are going to give you an opportunity to do that because they're going to man you up a lot. They're going to give you some quick answers, but they're going to bet that you can't find those answers. If you get the Raiders out of that, then all of a sudden you're in a much more comfortable place this week. So that's really what you want to see from Shador this week, and what would get you excited about Shador if you saw it. It's like, okay, he addressed this part of his game. There are some other parts of Shador's game that I think are just long-term projects. Over time, it's not going to fix itself overnight. I don't think it's fair to give it the expectation to fix itself overnight. But this is the kind of stuff that you want to see improved. Okay, you didn't do a good job of finding answers versus the blitz, but you also didn't practice a ton this week. How do you respond to that this week? That's the kind of stuff that you want to see improved for Shador in order to kind of get a better grip on this, right? It's going to be real easy for people to have a silly reaction to this game either way, right? We've seen it on the internet. Nobody's been normal about Shador Sanders. Everybody has been some level of strange, right? From the people trying to convince us that a guy going 4 for 16 is actually good, strange, to people trying to tell us that, like, hey, he should just retire right now and go to the CFL because he went 4 of 16. There's a whole world of opinions to be at with this Shador thing. I feel the same way about his last game that I felt about his preseason game, right? After his last preseason game, my point was simple. It was a bad game. We cannot deny that it was a bad outing from Shador, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Those two things can be true. What Shador put on tape last week was objectively bad. Some would say even worse than that. 4 of 16 is never a successful day for a quarterback. I don't care how much you care or don't care about stats. That's just what it is. 4 of 16, 43 yards. There's not a lot of people. If other quarterbacks had that stat line, I don't think there'd be a lot of justification for it, regardless of if you had reps or not. We've seen other quarterbacks come in less prepared and be able to do more in this similar situation. Hell, I've seen Johnny Manziel go 5 of 8. In his first game time versus the Buffalo Bills and run a touchdown in. Like, I get that it wasn't a great opportunity as far as like him getting all the reps that he could have possibly gotten, but that's just the job of a backup quarterback. And, I don't think he did the job well last week. Like, I think that's fair. Is it the biggest deal in the world, though? No, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And if Shador plays well this week and he demonstrates that, hey, I can operate the offense and then get to the stuff that I do well and show you why it is that people thought I could be a first-round draft pick, because he does have that special ability to be able to access some different windows out of structure, then all of a sudden you got something there, right? We get so caught up in fighting and trying to win arguments online that we don't ever try to seek out the nuance of the conversation or the nuance of the person that we're talking to. Like, when was the last time you've had an argument with somebody online and you've tried to like figure out why it is that they're like this? Like, you know what I mean? We get so caught up in arguing with people that we don't even really argue with people anymore. We're arguing with characters that we've made up in our mind that these people are. I see it happen with me all the time. Like, you look at my comment section, there are people mad at me about shit I never said all the time in the comment section, because they don't think I'm being positive enough about one player, or they don't think I'm being negative enough about a player. And to justify why they don't think I'm not being positive or negative enough about a player, they come up with shit that they think I think, and then they get mad about it. It's ridiculous, right? We get so caught up in these internet arguments, arguing with ourselves, that we don't even realize that we've been arguing with ourselves. At the end of the day, what we want to see the Browns have is better quarterback play than we've experienced over the last 11 weeks of football. And this is how Shador could get to a place to where he's playing better quarterback, giving the Browns at least a better chance of better quarterback play. Now, if he goes out there and he doesn't diagnose the blitz well and he's spinning around, it's not going to look good. I don't know what he's going to look like, right? I'm just telling you what the pathway is for his success. And if he doesn't go through that pathway, it's likely that we're going to see a bad game from him. But if he does diagnose the blitz better, he does find his answers, then I think we could see a great game from him. So it's all on the table for Shador. And I think this is a good opportunity for Shador to show, what he can do with the full week of practice and to give us a better look on what he is as a football player and what he is not as a football player. That being said, I'm excited to do the game, be live at 4 p.m. for us. Make sure you guys go check that out. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.